If that remedy were to be taken up on a larger scale, I can only dream of the fantastically positive consequences for the continent.
And now I'm doing every job which I can do. I'm doing without a problem.
Yeah, when I got to nearly the age of 60, I'd sort of felt like at that point I'd done enough to justify any sort of purpose of my life. I'd really enjoyed myself. I taught homeopathy all over the world, and virtually it seemed, and started professions of homeopathy and practiced it for many years. So I felt, I could sit back. But what actually happened was, when I did sit back, I became deeply inspired. So what I really wanted to do was to go to Africa and work on AIDS. But come my 60th birthday, I landed in Ethiopia. And I started working in a clinic. And I saw that actually homeopathy worked for these people. Ordinary, simple homeopathy, uncomplicated, got brilliant results sometimes. Not very consistently, but brilliant results when I got it right. And I saw that this was no solution because it required a high level of skill, and there was a high failure rate, and you're dealing with people who are going to die if you don't get it right. It's not a question of you can try and try again. I knew I had to apply the homeopathic principle of genus epidemicus, which is one remedy for everybody with the same epidemic disease, which is of course the conventional approach as well, and homeopathy and conventional medicine coincide at this point. There's no discussion. So the question was, what was the homeopathic remedy? And it's not easy to find a homeopathic remedy for a specific disease unless you've got very clear symptoms. And the problem is that AIDS is a very whole different dimension of disease because it basically collapses the immune system. So anyway, I resorted to having asked all my friends, and I studied this night and day. I was studying these cases. I had 70 well-documented cases. I was studying them, looking at, I had the best software in homeopathy. I had everything I needed, and I couldn't solve it. So one day I drew a line and said, I'm going to do a different thing. I'm going to reverse engineer this information into a remedy in a bottle.
I'm the editor of Homeopathic Links. And at some point I received reports by Peter Chappel from Ethiopia claiming that he had found a remedy that was effective for HIV/AIDS. That's quite a claim to make. And on the one hand, I was really hoping he was right, and on the other hand, I had my doubts. So I was interested, and then at some point I met him at a conference where he was one of the speakers. But even more than his presentation, there was another presentation by an American colleague who presented a case that really touched my heart. This person responded so tremendously to this remedy that Peter called PC1 that now I was really interested. And that's when I approached Peter and said, is there a place in Africa where I can go and check your claim? So my colleague Corey Hewat and I, we went to Africa. We interviewed some 60 patients that had been treated by Peter some 6 months on average before, and we checked them on all parameters concerning the AIDS syndrome. We checked their weight, their appetite, their tiredness, their weakness, their pains, their lung problems, and all parameters that we tested were significantly improved in this group of some 60 patients, and that was quite amazing.
In the year 2006, my husband started being ill. He was being down for a month, and within that month, he tested and dead. So it was difficult to me to care the child alone. And the moment I was getting ill, laying down, no walking, I feel also headache, terrible headache. So my chest was so painful, I was coughing, diarrhea at the same time, no support to my kids. So I felt sorry for that. because my child was so suffering. At the moment I was taking PC1, no painful, no more cough. I'm now strong, healthy, taking food, no problem, just eating well, more appetite.
Since 2004, in October, it was the first time that I visited here in Malawi. We started treating patients with PC1. And then we followed them up a few days later or a week later, and they were getting better. That means they were starting to eat again. So a lot of people had a loss of appetite or ulcers in the mouth, so they could not eat even if they had some appetite.
Before I tested, my weight was 40 kilo. I started PC1, my weight becomes 60 and I'm now in 60 kg. Yeah, so I'm happy.
The recovery process has been rapid. So in that sense, there's a homogeneous reaction. Within days or within a week, what I would expect if I were to give it today would be a fairly rapid recovery. Also of the spirit, also of the general feeling of well-being and happiness, you might say. For those people who have taken the remedy, particularly for people for whom sexual requirements are perhaps less or are absent, in the case of women past their menopausal period, in the case of children who invariably have reacted astoundingly well to the remedy, there I'm convinced that it has a sensationally effective role.
Weakness has completely gone, and now I'm doing every job which I can do with my body, with the illness which I was unable to do. Now I'm doing.
It really makes the body stronger, really boosts the immune system. That's also the way we explain it to the patients, that they are less susceptible to getting malaria or diarrhea, or even with the chronic cases of coughing, if it's TB or just a chronic cough, they feel much stronger and they don't get this anymore.
So without much hope of success, we administered the remedy to first a friend of ours, a widow, the classic situation of the husband long dead and her health going slowly but surely backwards. And I can remember the reaction of my wife, I think probably a week later, after the administration of the remedy. It was just jaw-dropped, wide-eyed wonder that the improvement was so significant. If people come to us who were able in themselves to follow those guidelines, those guys have never needed a second bottle, or if they have, that's all they've needed. So in my experience, that one treatment was enough, I hope, for their life. Our oldest experience is with her, and therefore it's 5.5 years old. But my hope and my expectation is that that one-time treatment, because I think you know that ARVs are to be taken for the rest of your life, and although they have definitely their place, my hope is that with PC1, that once-only treatment, that 3-month taking the little teaspoon daily, will be enough for the rest of their lives. I can't state that with certitude, but I can state it with confidence, and I can say that somebody who started 5.5 years ago is simply as healthy as I or you am.
In 2004, I went to Malawi and to work in a clinic there, and I was very fortunate in that this Dr. Mwanda, who was the head, really, the top surgeon at the local hospital, took time out to work with me and to help me medically and to be my translator. Then he really understood what the impact of AIDS was about, because he'd watched it for years, killing people and being helpless. So he was witnessing what PC1 could do.
No, I came here in 2004, working with Peter Chappel, to see other patients, mostly working on PC1. Those people who had diarrhea stopped. Those people who had fever stopped. And those people who had they had to gain their weight. Those patients are still walking around, but they took PC1, they are still taking PC1. They're working happily in their farms. So possibly I feel I had this experience that possibly PC1 is working dramatically on HIV positive patients.
And since 2007, people got access to ARVs. It's freely available, free of charge. And we saw a lot of cases, HIV positive people coming with pain in the legs.
At the first, I am okay, no wondering anything. But these days I'm feeling pain of the legs. As I wake up early in the morning, I feel pain in me as if I had done a hard job.
If some eruptions on the legs, pain in the legs, even to really severe cases where people say there's a numbness and then the legs start shaking and they can't walk anymore. They get paralyzed. And we saw this often, and we didn't know what was going on. And it was all HIV positive patients, all taking ARVs. That's a very, very common side effect, the neurological side effects, especially of the legs. And then we put them onto PC1, and these side effects decreased. Not all of them went away. It depends on how severe the damage was or is at that stage. If people came with some pain and some difficulty in walking and they take PC1, it goes away. If they're at that stage where the legs shake like this, or if they are paralyzed, then it's a bit too late. We can alleviate it a little bit, but if there's paralysis, those people can't be helped. But generally they feel better. When people are taking PC1 and ARVs together from the start, they don't have this problem of the legs.
When I take ARVs alone, without PC1, I'm becoming tired when I'm working. But when I'm taking both on working grounds, I feel strong. So I cannot leave PC1 because of ARV.
Inaweza basaidia kumwili hawakukuwa na wazi. Antuka ba mingi walikuwa na dute sana juu ya ile madawa, mais après utilisation ya ile madawa balifurahia. Et aussi kube balikuwa wanapungukiwa ma CD4. Bakukwe balikuwa nakia ma CD4 ziko chini. Bon, après consommation ya PC ziko zinaenda na panda pole pole. Na mapua quelqu'un tuna recevoir mtu par exemple mwalikuwa na 40 kilo pour aujourd'hui nawaza najikuta mu 48 à 50.
I can tell you I've run the gamut of all possible emotions in the whole business of administering PC1 and looking at the results of it and thinking about what it can mean for Africa. I've gone from the highest euphoric highs, which are not to be described, to the lowest levels of despair. Not so much about its lack of efficacy, exactly the opposite, but my feeling has been a little bit like, if this thing is as effective as its maker and its proponents say it is, and as I, with my own eyes, see it is, why in heaven's name has it not been taken up on a worldwide scale? Why has it not been adopted by the World Health Organization? Why has it not been taken up by the Ministry of Health in Malawi? Why has it not been championed? In short, why is it not on the 6 o'clock news of every single broadcaster in the world? Because what I've seen is nothing short of sensational. And I'm a fairly level-headed guy, I think. But let me dream, let me imagine that we could somehow get these good people on board, people who already have done tremendous things in other fields and who already have taken the HIV/AIDS scourge or curse or pandemic seriously. If we could somehow, by one means or another, convince them that we have an effective, cheap, simple and safe medicine, it would be day and night between what we see now and what we could see for the health of a whole continent. If we can get those people on board, who's to say what fantastic progress we could make together?